Now, who were? Yeah, okay. This picture is taken at a time in between the two impacts of the airliners. You see the North Tower had been hit, the South Tower not yet. And what we see is the north side of Building 7 presenting itself to the world as a modern, quite elegant. You see brown marble on the front here. And it was, as I said, a modern, elegant, and very sturdy construction. Now, who were the tenants in World Trade Center 7? There were several commercial companies, not very important in this connection. Maybe except for the Salomon Smith and Barney broker company, which had rented the upper 20 floors of the building. And for that reason, Building 7 sometimes is called the Salomon Building. In particular, in BBC, news clips. Now, more interesting maybe are the federal agencies in the building. Maybe not the Equal Opportunity Commission, but the Department of Defense, Pentagon, had offices in the building. So had the IRS, what we call the tax service in Danish. CIA had their New York undercover headquarters in the building. It was not revealed before a few days after 9/11, actually in the New York Times. Also, Secret Service had their biggest office outside Washington, D.C. And Secret Service is an important body in the American power structure, since Secret Service takes over power if the president or the vice president are not available. So if for some reason they have been maybe out of reach, the Secret Service who determines in the situation of emergency. And also, they have the power to decide where the president or the vice president should be, because they're responsible for their security. So if they say that the president should leave the room, he actually has to leave the room. Securities and Exchange Commission, somebody finds very interesting in this connection, and you'll understand why in a moment. Because I don't know what you call it in Dutch, but it is a body which oversees everything regarding fraud and corruption within corporate America. And at that time, they had between 3,000 and 4,000 unsolved cases in their offices, including all of the WorldCom scandal and most of the Enron scandal, which most people, even in Europe, are aware of. And tens of thousands of people lost their pension. It was in the offices of World Trade Center 7. Also on the 23rd floor there was an interesting emergency management center, which we do not have time, unfortunately, to take a closer look at. It's also very interesting. What we're doing now is we're going 7 hours after the collapse of the North Tower, 20 minutes past 5 in the afternoon, and let's see what happens to Building 7.
It's gone, man.
Yeah, it goes down just like this. I realize that at least some of you have not seen it before, which most people haven't actually. If you go out on the street, nobody knows that this was World Trade Center. You'll see several. This is another video of the event where you, on the distance, where you can see that was quite actually an enormous building. It's about 3 times higher than what we can produce in Copenhagen. The next clip is interesting if you have keen ears, and I turn up the volume because it is taken from Midtown Manhattan with the telly, and it's useful because you can see the profile of the building actually going down very symmetrically. But also the voiceover belongs to Dan Rather, who at that time was one of the most trusted and believed news anchors in the history of American television. He had been working for CBS for 42 years at that time. And if you don't catch what she's saying, I will tell it in an hour. I'll not repeat it again. Yeah, this is not, you can do it.
Incredible picture work. For the third time today, just reminiscing of those pictures we've all seen too much on television before, when a building was deliberately destroyed by well-placed dynamite to knock it down. And
so much for them, and this is the riddle. This is the challenge for us tonight, to find out why and how did World Trade Center come down. It ended up as a little tiny pile, about 20 meters high, 2 stories high. And what is also impressive is it falls totally into its own footprint. There's no damage on the facades of the buildings surrounding it here. Maybe a chunk has been bitten off this building. You see the same pile, this time viewed from the south. And barely touched the sidewalks over here. Maybe there's a little damage here, but if there's nothing left except for the steel frame. How fast did this building collapse? Because it looks it's coming down pretty fast. And several people have looked into it. One of them is an American physicist, a physics teacher, a high school teacher called David Chandler. And he took the effort actually to This is high school physics basically. He took a program called Tracker, in which you can ask the program to monitor a specific point of a structure. In this case, it is the northwest corner of the building, which the program follows as it descends. Within the video, you have 25 frames a second, meaning that you have an internal clock which very accurately can determine the position of this spot. And then you can determine the velocity, how fast the spot moves. And what then the program does then is that you can plot the velocity, the speed against time, and see what happens to the speed as the building comes down. And the points are moving downwards because the building is going downwards. So the velocity is negative, which should not be misunderstood. The fact is that the velocity, the rate, increases as the building goes down. Two aspects of this curve are important. One thing is that it rests, it's in complete rest until this point. And then the curve breaks discontinuously and it goes down. The next thing, which is observable, is that for 2.5 seconds, roughly, all these points are lying on a straight line, meaning that the velocity is increasing constantly. And what does it mean? When velocity increases, we all know this is acceleration. And what does it mean that the velocity is increasing constantly, as indicated by all these points lying on this straight line? Now I asked a guy who surely knows about these matters. So Isaac Newton, he wrote maybe the most important book in science at all in 1687 called Principia. We call it Principia. And into that book you can find all the equations and the laws according to which bodies move in space and time. And so I asked him, what does it mean that the speed is constantly increasing? And he said, this is constant acceleration. I said, we got the number, I forgot to point out. You could see the slope of this curve going down. We found an acceleration of 9.88 meters per second squared. And it said, this is free fall. Now, what is free fall? Well, it should be taken literally. Free fall meaning that something is falling freely. And you have actually provided me with the formula saying that the height of where the fall is occurring, the distance, is equal to half time a constant called the gravitational constant and time squared, which makes it very easy for you or for me to take your pocket calculator and see how long time does it take for a body to fall 2 meters free fall, and it comes out with 0.66 seconds. So now I'll make a little demonstration involving my air. I'll subject it to free fall over 2 meters. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll count to 4 and I'll release it on 3. So watch out. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it hit the ground before I could say 4. And if you had been fast with the stopwatch, you would have come up with 0.66 seconds. Meaning, what is the implication now for building 7? Well, we are observing that the 47th floor is moving in a free fall speed, and it goes directly into free fall from rest. It means that at that point of time, when the 47th floor starts moving, it moves as if there is nothing below it. At that moment, all supporting structure of the building has been eliminated. I'm not saying that they are all being eliminated simultaneously, but at least the last part of the structure must have been eliminated simultaneously. And if some idiot had been standing on the 47th floor, holding an apple or a stone or a ball outside the window and released it at the same time that he or she had started to move, the stone, the ball would move at the same speed as the 47th story floor. I have a little demo illustrating that point. This is free fall.
The ball has started to drop, yet 7 World Trade is still above the starting line. At the 1 second mark, 7 World Trade and the ball are still even. 7 World Trade indeed falls 100 meters in 4.5 seconds.
So this is our observations. We are doing natural science now. We are starting by making observations. And these are the observations we have made.